Section 17 of Joseph in the Snow and the Clockmaker. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Tom Freya. Joseph in the Snow and the Clockmaker by Berthold Auerbach, translated by Grace Jane Wallace. Chapter 17. A Great Event in a Small House. "Yes, I quite forgot to tell you that the farce miller," had Liegert said, when she was interrupted by loud cries from the house. "He is found! Joseph is close by." The women ran out and asked, "Is anyone hurt?" "Not one. All safe," was the answer. Liegert remained immovable in her chair, only placing her feet more firmly on her footstool, which seemed seized with a sudden trembling. She took a secret pinch of snuff to tranquilize her nerves, and looked at the jacket with a glance signifying, "I have done with you at last." "Joseph is here," called out Hushspiel, who had run forward before the rest, "and my jacket is finished," answered Liegert, in the firm conviction that by her incessant sewing she had preserved Joseph's life. But as Hushspiel in his ignorance made no remark on this point, she asked, "Where was he found?" "In the forest mill." "In fact, I need not have asked," rejoined Liegert, glancing around with a self-satisfied air. "I knew where he was. I pointed out exactly the way he was sure to take. At the very minute when the cry of his being found was first heard, I was in the act of uttering the words, 'The forest miller.' All the women know that this is true." The most important point for Liegert was to prove that she was clever enough to know precisely what was going on, even when she was not there herself. When they all came into the room, Martina pressed Liegert's hand warmly, thereby causing her to scatter on the floor a private pinch of snuff. Liegert said again, "I knew it. I said it. I told them he was in the forest mill. At the very moment that Hushspiel arrived, I said the words, 'Forest miller,' and I prophesy now for you, Martina, that you will get your Adam at last." "It is so. It is so. Here he is," exclaimed Martina. Liegert cast down her eyes modestly. She wished to vindicate her prophetic gifts, and to show that she knew it all beforehand. She nodded emphatically to all who came into the room, as if to say, "I knew that you would all come here. I knew it long before. I foresaw it all, and particularly that Adam would come in, holding Joseph by the hand. I knew all about the wolf, too. I only met an adder in the forest, but the one animal is quite as dangerous as the other. All that has occurred could not fail to come to pass." Liegert was surprised at nothing. The expression of her face said, "Nothing is hidden from me," and she took a stolen pinch with entire complacency. "I have 3 fathers now," exclaimed Joseph. "Liegert, here are my 3 fathers." "Good," said David, "but go to bed now. Martina, take him away." "God be praised, we are all come safe back," shouted he into his wife's ear. The grandmother nodded with a pleased face. "Has it been snowing, hay?" asked she, taking some stalks of hay out of her husband's hair. All laughed, and the deaf grandmother laughed too, and looked earnestly at each person, guessing from the motion of their lips what she could not hear. She stretched out her hand to Speidel Rotman, saying, "Pray sit down. Pray sit down." Adam went up and shook hands with her of his own accord, bawling into her ear in his stentorian voice, "God bless you, mother-in-law." The old woman stepped back suddenly as if she had received a blow. "I hear you well enough. I am not so deaf as all that," said she, retreating to the bench beside the stove, and looking nervously at the great men and the great dogs. Schilder David's house was not made for the Rotmans. The father and son almost touched the ceiling when they stood upright. Little Joseph remained for a time sitting on the knee of Spiedel Rotman. David was jealous, and felt almost angry with the child for taking so quickly to other people. "Give me your large wolf dog," said Joseph to Grandfather Rotman, who said, "He is yours." "You are mine, my own," said Joseph to the dog, but he was obliged to leave him with his grandfather for the present, as the animal would not go with him. "Someone take Joseph to bed instantly," repeated David in a voice of authority. His wife understood, by the movement of his lips, what her husband was saying, so she took Joseph by the hand and went with him up to the attic. Scarcely had the door closed behind the grandmother and grandson when Liegert stepped forward with a degree of confidence and self-assurance that amazed everyone, saying deliberately, "And now, Martina, go and put on your wedding dress. I will assist you, for you know I always promised that I would. All you men, if you are true men, take care that Adam and Martina are married this very night. You can if you will, and if you insist upon it. The Rotmans have a famous opportunity of showing their courage. Spiedel can now split asunder a hard log, and you, Adam, the horse, may drag it home. What are you all staring at me for? I say go straight to our pastor, and I tell you the thing will be done. I tell you so, and I always know pretty well what I say. Come, Martina, that I may dress you. You shall not hide your face any longer. You have groaned and grieved and felt shame long enough. Come along." She took Martina with her to her room, while everyone walked after her in surprise. But no one spoke a word. Martina soon returned into the room, prettily dressed. Adam went up to her and, unseen by the others, showed her something wrapped up and fastened by a ribbon into his purse. He then turned to the others, saying, "Father and father-in-law, it is far the best plan. Come with us to our pastor. He must make us one this very day. He will never do it. Let us at least try." "Don't let us forget the chief point of all," said Schilder David, suddenly stopping. "When anyone goes to be married they must know their catechism, and particularly the 10 Commandments. Can you repeat them to me, Adam? You say nothing. Here is Joseph's catechism for you. Go into the next room and look it over quickly." "I will help you," said Martina, going with Adam into the next room. This, however, was far from being an easy piece of work. Adam plodded and became as hot as fire, but he could not manage to get the 10 Commandments into his head, especially the order in which they followed each other. In his agitation of heart he evidently had no chance of impressing these eternal laws on his memory. "Does our Joseph know the 10 Commandments?" said Adam to Martina. "Yes, indeed, word for word." Liegert rescued the despairing Adam by coming into the room and saying, "Don't delay at present. You are not like other people. The pastor will probably ask you no questions on the subject, and if he does, you can promise to learn the commandments afterwards." "A capital idea," said Adam in a tone of relief, and closing the book at once, he felt as if a heavier load was taken off his shoulders than on that memorable day when he had carried the cart and the sacks. He returned with Martina into the sitting-room. The 2 fathers and the bride and bridegroom wished to leave the house together. Adam tried to make his mother-in-law aware of what was going on, but she shrunk from him, putting both hands to her ears. But when David spoke to her, she nodded. "Shall I stay at home?" asked she, "and take care of Joseph? I will do it if you choose. But you have all done so much, while I have been sitting at home, and I must say I should like to be present at my Martina's wedding. Liegert will be so kind as to stay with Joseph." "No, I will not be so kind. I have vowed to be present at Martina's marriage, and I could not possibly stay away, even if I wished it." Luckily Haspil, the refuge of the destitute, arrived at this moment, and though he had dressed himself very smartly, and was very proud of his personal appearance, and especially overjoyed that the wedding was to take place that very day, naturally expecting to have a conspicuous place at it. Still, he was at last persuaded to stay with Joseph by Martina, saying to him, "Ashbeel, all your life long you have been most kind, both to the child and to me. Be so good as to stay with the child today." "Yes, yes, I'll do so, of course, not another word," said Ashbeel, and, gulping down his disappointment as best he could, he went up to the attic and sat down by Joseph's bedside. The two fathers, the mother, and the bridal pair went to the parsonage, and a few paces behind followed Liegard alone, looking round at the houses on every side, where she saw a light as she went along, and thinking how little they knew what an unexpected event was about to take place that night. Liegard heard the sounds of music. It must be bridal music sounding in the air. To be sure, she is the only one who hears the melody, but she both knows and hears more than most people. When the wedding party entered the sitting-room of the parsonage, Liegard stayed below, with the maid in the kitchen. She soon, however, dispatched her upstairs, that she might throw open the little window of the kitchen for air. She was in such a state of excitement. End of section 17.